You know, you really could not make a better Pokemon game than the Pokemon Company and Game Freak if you tried. Okay, ignoring the fanpy in the room of how hard it's becoming to even try making a monster capturing training RPG, as much as I hate to say it, I really think that what we get from Game Freak and the Pokemon Company is as good as it'll ever get. Now, I know leading with this, you're probably typing that I'm blinded by nostalgia or just giving Game Freak another pass, but I firmly believe that the very best Pokemon clone is not anywhere near as enjoyable to play as the worst Pokemon game, and I would die on that hill. Hey everyone, my name is Christian, this is Rantable, and while I understand your frustrations, Pokemon reigns supreme for a reason, and once you understand it, you might start liking it again. I recognize the immense power of nostalgia. Intentional or not, warm memories of simpler times can and do color our perception of something. It's a powerful feeling that plenty of companies love to cash in on, and in gaming, none may do so more frequently than the Pokemon Company. Yes, I grew up with the games. They were the obsessions of my summers. And yes, I do still love playing a new Pokemon game whenever it releases. But like most of you watching this, I hope not too angrily just yet, I have plenty of issues with the current state of the series. I know this is a complex concept to bring up in a Pokemon discourse, but there is nuance to the nostalgia conversation, the resentment that many lapsed fans hold towards both the series and those who still enjoy playing it, and even how Pokemon exists in its role as the king of monster battlers, and really the king of franchises in 2025. None of the Switch era games have been perfect. Many, far from it. One got kinda close, but they all have their shortcomings. Some of them devastating. Despite that, I do keep coming back to Pokemon for the things the series does consistently well, and yes, it does do some things consistently well. From feelings of discovery to the social experience of playing through the games for the first time alongside fellow Pokemon fans, I just like the way Pokemon delivers these feelings, through mechanics and beats that are comfortingly familiar, or at times, refreshingly charming. Sue me. Wait. How I view Pokemon as a video game series and my relationship to them is very similar to the way that I look at McDonald's French fries. It is an empty calorie, fun, and nostalgic thing that is a great treat. When I was younger, sure, a plate full of only this sounds like the peak of all things. But realistically, I really only want it once in a while, and by the time I'm done, I feel like I need to eat like a head of broccoli. Pokemon as a series, the most successful series ever, can and should evolve in some ways to offer a more polished experience, warranting its asking price. Now, despite all of that, even at their most stilted, buggy, broken, and awkward, I will take stale and cold McDonald's fries over the we have fries at home frozen options that your mom, or in this case, Pokemon hardcore fans, try to tell you are just as good. But like, you know that it's really not. This is where I think I lose the hardcore, who have fully sworn off the main series of games moving forward in favor of fan games or just other monster taming battlers. I don't mean to say games aiming for Pokemon can never themselves be of a good, decent quality, but anyone who thinks some game inspired by or trying to fix Pokemon will somehow teach Game Freak a lesson or light a fire under them, become a hit with true fans, and become a Pokemon killer are delusional. For the longest time, people have called the Pokemon series baby's first RPG, as an insult, with older gamers writing them off for not being as interesting to them as real RPGs. Now, while baby's first RPG may sound reductive born out of this elitism, I think it's actually crucial to why these games work and have worked for generations. Pokemon as an RPG has really always been a way to get you to open your mind to the Final Fantasies and Dragon Quests or even Digimons of the world. Hell, Dragon Quest is the game that made monster taming a thing. Pokemon is just the one that was able to build an empire off of that idea. There's a universal approachability that these works have. It's the same reason why something like Avatar is the highest grossing film of all time. A fairly simple story structure following a resistance against a tyrannical group that anyone can really buy into. And what hooks people is everything unique surrounding that universal base. Similarly, Pokemon does such a good job presenting an introductory way to view turn-based RPGs, a genre that is often seen as off-putting or too complex for many players, to the point where it kind of fooled me, and for most of my life I didn't even realize I would enjoy other turn-based RPGs, like a Final Fantasy, because I loved Pokemon. The way that turn-based games were talked about online, they seemed way too complicated for the older, smarter gamers who knew things and played the NES. I wrote all of these games off as I was training a Torterra, none the wiser that this monster could have easily just been Cloud Strife. And I kind of feel like this happens with a lot of folks. Honestly, people often act like turn-based is dying or in need of a savior to really show people how great and successful they can be, which is just kind of hilarious because anytime a new Pokemon game drops, one of the top 2 bestsellers of the year ends up being a turn-based RPG. So to act like all of this success or the appeal of Pokemon is just from nostalgia or people being unable to have higher standards for the games they play is incredibly out of touch to me. Take a step back and realize a 10-year-old picking up Scarlet and Violet doesn't like it because they feel warmth in their heart whenever they see a Ken Sugimori drawn Charizard. They like it for the same reason we all liked our first Pokemon game. Since the Switch launched, I have seen firsthand 2 friends my age who somehow didn't grow up with any sort of connection to Pokemon pick up one of the games released for the Switch and have a great time with them. Both of these people are capital G gamers with legit standards for everything they play. And yet, devoid from the nostalgia people say is the only thing keeping the series alive and kicking, they were able to have a completely enjoyable experience. Both of these friends even ended up checking out more turn-based RPGs, a genre they never bothered with previously because of their time playing Pokemon. This is the reason for Pokemon's success. Each and every Pokemon game always considers that it may be somebody's first, and while that ignites a fury in some longtime fans, it is why the series has continued to grow and resonate with people generation after generation. So many games trying to be or fix Pokemon lack this perspective. Almost every single game trying to be Pokemon is built from the perspective of fans already deep in the weeds of the series. These games and the fans championing them, I find often treat Pokemon's approachability, its greatest strength, as a massive weakness. So despite having my own issues and desires to see the series improve every time a new game comes out, this is why I so heavily butt heads against the hardcore fan scrutiny each of the modern games receives. The player who is so concerned with shiny odds, EV training, manipulating natures, breeding, hyper-competitive team comp, and an in-depth meta build based on Mega Evolution are, in my mind, no different from that kid from the anime that literally whips his Sandshrew into fighting harder. To me, Pokemon is, never has been, and never will be built for that player. Yes, these trainers can find enjoyment in the series by pushing the mechanics to their limits or really diving into competitive play. And if you want to play that way, by all means have a blast. But Pokemon at its core is loved by players of all ages because it's meant to be an entry-level experience for a genre that can feel daunting to many players young and old, and I'll never be angry at the series for being that. So to the players frustrated by each new Pokemon game heavily weighing the experience of the newcomer and how it's designed, to the player who wants more out of Pokemon mechanically or wants it to be more enriching and nutritious than a simple McDonald's French fry, you can very easily get that the same way that I do, by playing more involved and advanced turn-based RPGs. If you want to disagree or truly believe that Pokemon actually used to fulfill the role of a more advanced turn-based RPG, you are welcome to. I just will never see it that way. Now, have some of the characters or game mechanics been smoothed down over the years? Perhaps a bit too much? Sure, I would say so, but realistically, in the early days, this walking uphill both ways in the snow challenge that we all talk about the older games having was often just broken or unfair balancing, on top of us just not seeing the matrix of these games yet. Really, I only feel recently, with the Legends sub-series now having aged up protagonists and stories concerning themselves with peoples, places, and relationships more than the need to fulfill the role of being the very best? Does it really feel like Pokemon has started catering to these players who have either grown up with or out of the series? Pokemon Legends Arceus truly reignited my love for the Pokemon game franchise after a lifetime of playing these games more or less the same way that I did the last time. Now with Legends ZA, I think this much more aggressive and active playstyle is another attempt to speak to older fans who over the years may have spent more time playing more complex RPGs than what the core Pokemon series offers them. Delivering the classic appeal and vibes of Pokemon in a game where you need to take into account timing and positioning and attack cooldowns. It may sound silly, but that really is adding a lot into the mix and speaking to players who are tired of the traditional formula. I will always want Pokemon to be better, but I also know there is a point where we need to call a spade a spade. The Pokemon Company knows it is the king of the monster taming RPG, and they are simply correct. For better or worse, nobody can ever challenge them. In the meantime, I think there is a bit of peace that comes with accepting some of these truths about Pokemon, what it is and what it isn't. I know there's not much enrichment I can earn out of these games compared to other more involved RPGs which ask more of me, like a Persona or a Dragon Quest or even like a Dragon. I know what the Pokemon Company views as acceptable to release and charge full price for, and I know there are also plenty of fan games made with tunnel vision that people think fix every bad thing about the series that I'll just never connect with. But most importantly, at the end of the day, I know while there are better, more impressive, more nutritious ways to prepare a potato, these McDonald's French fries are consistent and will make me happy enough for what I need out of them. And then the Legends series is kind of just like a new fun dipping sauce that makes me excited to return again. So how do you feel about the state of Pokemon in 2025? Are you planning on diving into Legends ZA ASAP, or are you done with the series after Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Let us know what you think of this latest Pokemon adventure and where you want to see the series go next. Thank you so much for watching. For more on Pokemon, future episodes of Rantable, and more, be sure to stay tuned to GameRant.com.